Ulrika, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited for this episode, honestly, because your story was like very unique and exceptional. I would like to hear more about it. So, can you tell us more about yourself?
Thank you. Yes, today, obviously, I feel good and I feel that I've created a good life for myself. But obviously, stories goes, it hasn't always been like that. 15 years ago, I was very depressed, burned out, and suicidal. It was a very it was a very tough situation for me at the time. I was a mother of two little children, and I had severe nightmares. I woke up every night after only 15 minutes per sleep. And every night in my dreams, I was being murdered and tortured. I was on the edge. My cognitive abilities were really affected. I had no memories. I did things that were, not healthy because I couldn't even, see that they weren't. I had panic attacks. I had a lot of eczema. I had eating disorders. And on top of that, only sleeping 15 minutes per night with the consequences of being depressed and suicidal. So it was a very dark time in my life. And, at the time I was a seeker. So I tried to seek help from outer things, or try to distract myself, or try to numb myself, or try to be the good girl, always being on the move into another project. I had eating disorders also, so going to the gym would be a very good way to control all these things that I had suppressed within me that I wasn't even conscious of. So life was very hectic, and as a mom also to two small children. Then one day I go to therapy, and she tells me, you are not well. You really should be home, for a couple of days. And I was like, me sick? No, I don't think so. I don't have a cold. But obviously I didn't work. I didn't function cognitive. I was so stressed. So like any small sound made me jerk and jump, and I was really sensitive to lights. And obviously, as I said, I wanted to end my life. Like every day that I looked in myself in the mirror, I just saw these eyes that were really lifeless. And I looked at myself with a lot of self-hatred and disdain, and like, who is this? I don't want to live anymore. So for me to come back from where I was has been a long journey, challenging journey. But I came to a point at the time where I realized, like, either, I need to change, or if I continue, I'll be dead. And if I'm dead, I am of no use to my small children, then they will be motherless, and they have no use of me whatsoever if I'm dead. So there were some turning points for me on my journey, points where I realized that somehow I needed to change. Life needed to change, or I would be dead.
Yeah, that's really thrilling. Sorry for interrupting. And there are too many things I wanted to ask you about in this part of the story, because it sounds very intense, and the things that you experienced are very brutal, I guess. But you mentioned something that you went to therapy and you were convinced that you were not sick. How do you explain that? And what was the wake-up call for you that you were really sick, I would say?
Thank you. So I had many wake-up calls. Like I had many signals all the time. I just didn't listen. I didn't know how to listen because I was so programmed in being this good girl, in managing my weight, how I looked, how how I carried myself, to be the good girl, to be effective, to be, you know, high, how do you say, high, yeah, always on the move anyway, busy, etc., etc. Yeah, high performance, exactly. Thank you, Albert. So, and at the time, you know, this was my reality. And I didn't realize at the time, as I said, that I was sick. I didn't realize that I was depressed. I didn't realize, you know, that I was suicidal, because for me, that was normal. I didn't know there was, I thought everybody, you know, felt like this. This is like how life should be. So one turning point was when I go out to my parents' cabin in the archipelago, because also at the time I was married. At the time, my husband didn't know that every night I was only sleeping 15 minutes per night, and every night at 2:47 a.m. Let me see if you see it, like,
yeah,
it's blurred, so it's 2:47 a.m. anyway. So yeah, there you go. 2:47 a.m. So every night I woke up at 2:47 a.m. With a pounding heart, a stale taste of blood in my mouth, and, you know, all sweaty, being disorientated, as I woke up with silent screams from being murdered in my dreams. Every night I was being murdered, I was slaughtered, I was tortured, there was, you know, blood splattering. And every night I came back, you know, like gulping for air and with silent screams and totally disorientated, until I watched the alarm clock, 2:47 a.m. And then I realized that I had only been sleeping for 15 minutes, because the last time I looked at the red digits on the alarm clock, it was 2:32. So this was like, you know, for decades that I only slept for 15 minutes.
Same time, like what happens? Didn't you try to go to bed in different times?
Oh, I tried so many things. I tried therapy. I tried light therapy. I tried sleeping therapy, to, you know, not to go to sleep, and only to go to sleep when I was really, you know, falling down. I tried so many things. I tried medications, insomnia and sleeping pills. They didn't work for me. I just felt like I had a hangover, you know, so I was still awake, but then in the morning it felt like I had a hangover. So I tried so many things, because I have had sleeping disorders for as long as I can remember. And so it started when I was like maybe a young teenager, having sleeping disorders, and I adapted to that. And then, you know, I woke up earlier and earlier, and I could go back to sleep. And so this was like a long process. But for me, I adapted, and, you know, sort of, the less I slept, the more I did. I was hectic at the gym. I was always busy, running around, counting calories. I did vacuum my house 7 times a day. So a lot of fucked up energy. Yes. So one of the turning points for me were when I told my husband that I was really tired. And, you know, my baby girl was only like 3 months at the time, so it was normal to be tired as a newborn mom with another 2-year-old son. But I never told my husband that I was murdered next to him every night. He never knew that, you know, in my dreams, that I was being slaughtered next to him every night. So I just said that I was really tired. I needed to go away. So I went to the Swedish archipelago, where my parents have a cabin. And it's winter 2008. It's a beautiful winter's day. And when I come out there, it's like, oh, maybe now I can sleep, you know, maybe now I can relax and just enjoy the silence, because I was so sensitive for sounds, as I just mentioned before. But I have this really weird feeling inside. It feels like a volcano that is about to erupt, and it scares the shit out of me, because I don't know what it is. It feels like I'm going to explode. So I go out in the forest, in the Swedish archipelago. The sun is shining, it's snowing, so you can see the snowflakes. It's a beautiful day. And then I feel this thing, whatever it is, unknown. moving really fast inside of me. And, you know, so I'm picking up the pace, trying to walk even quicker to suppress it or to try to escape from it. But all of a sudden, I just feel like I have this knife into my heart. It's like a dagger, like, so the pain is massive. It's so intense. So I remember that I hold my breath, I gasp for air, and I press my hands towards my heart and have this thought that, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm having a heart attack. So I'm dying here in the forest. I didn't have time to say goodbye to my children. I'm here all by myself. And I have this immense pain, and I just fall into the snow. And there it's like I hear a snap. It's like a crack or a snap. And then all of a sudden, from a long distance, I hear this horrifying sounds. It sounds like, a dying animal. So I'm like, oh my God, not only am I, having a heart attack and dying here in the snow, there's like a wolf here that's going to come and eat me. Until I realize that this howling and grunting and these screams are my own. So there I am. My body starts to move. I hear another snap and I start to cry. So it's like, opening the floodgates. So it's just pouring down and I'm screaming and howling and grunting, and my body is moving, jerking back and forth. And so this goes on for many hours, because when I come back to my senses, I hear the tears subside. I hear the gruntings become lower and lower, and all of a sudden I'm like back, and it's pitch black. So that means that I've been lying there for hours. And for the first time in decades, it's total silence. There's no thoughts. It's just still. And the best that I can describe it is like it's a stillness in expansion, like this stillness expanding within me. And it's so silent, no thoughts. And it's like all my senses are enhanced. So I can see the snowflakes, even it's pitch dark. I can hear the snowflakes. And for the first time that I can remember, I felt really in peace with this stillness in expansion. And then when I go home, I don't turn any lights on. I sit there in the darkness. I've been lying in the snow all the time, but I'm not cold. And I know that this somehow was significant. I couldn't describe in what way. I didn't know why or how so, because nothing had changed, except, all this crying and making a lot of weird sounds. But the experience was totally different. So I knew something had shifted, or that it was like a turning point. And from there have been many breakdowns and many facing a lot of suppressed emotions, healing a lot of traumas that are stored in my body and in each and one of us body, in our cells, in our DNA, because everything is stored. Everything that we don't express, everything that we don't heal, or anything that we don't deal with is still stored within our energetic and physical bodies. So from there on, there was many years of recovering and many years of building back my inner organs. All my organs were really depleted. So yeah. And so what I do now to my clients, obviously I know it works because I'm sitting right here, right? Otherwise I would have been dead. So to guide people back into their bodies and live more heart-centered lives, and with an increased consciousness, more aligned with who they are on a soul level. But so my journey wasn't so easy. It was quite challenging. And at the time also, there was a divorce from my husband. And we have 2 close relatives that died. So, and at the same time, I was suicidal every day. I looked in the mirror thinking, is this the day that I'm going to end my life? So And here I am now.
Yeah, that's absolutely extraordinary. And the story you shared, it's like very, it sounds very strange, but at the same time, it's like really extraordinary. My question is, how did you make sense of it at the moment and later? Like now, how do you reflect on it, and how do you make sense of what happened? And do you think that was like the turning point, that the wake-up call that like happened to your body and led you on the path of recovery?
So thank you for the questions, many good questions. So it was one of the turning points. I had many of those. I can, talk about many of them, but that was one, because I realized that I somehow I needed to change. I knew somehow that, as I said, either I'm going to continue to live the way that I do, and then I will be dead, and then my kids won't have any mom, or I needed to change. And I had no idea. I had no idea what needed to change. I had no idea how to change that I didn't even know how to change. I was so sick, so I still couldn't work. So I had to quit my job and, try to do what I had healed myself from, or what I was healing, So it was an ongoing journey while I was healing myself, and also trying to, support my kids as a single mom, etc., etc. So there were so many layers to this. And I know that it happened now. I didn't know that at the time, obviously, because at the time I was wondering, why me? What have I done so wrong that I feel like this? I'm an honorable person. I don't steal, I don't lie, I don't cheat, I haven't murdered anybody. So why this suffering? Why am I suffering so much? Why me? What have I done? So I didn't understand. I didn't know. And that is the scary part, when everything is unclear and uncertain, and you don't know, you have no idea, and yet still you have to do something, right? So from there's been like a lot of practicing to surrender, a lot of practicing to be in the unknown, and to trust that, somehow, because we always get information. We are all intuitive beings, intuitive energetic beings, but most of us, myself included, I wasn't used to listen. I didn't know what signs to listen for, or how they would, appear. And I was so much up in my headspace. And from a yogic perspective, when we are so much up in the headspace, planning ahead, trying to solve problems logically, overwhelmed, repeating thoughts over and over, when you're in your head, this means that your energy, from a yogic perspective, has left the body, right? Mm-hmm. So everything that is uncomfortable within the body, all your traumas, all your suppressed emotions, you are escaping. The energy is escaping. So what you need to do is to go back within. You need to descend with the energy into the body, where everything lies and resides and is stored. And there's a saying, like, the only way through is through. I mean, I had tried so many strategies to numb myself, to distract myself, trying to move around these obstacles, but the only way through is through. And like, the more I want to expand out there, the more I want to be successful, the more I want to be in flow, the healthier I want to be. The only way forward is inward, right? Mm-hmm. So I needed to descend into my body, and to face all these fears, face all these traumas that was unhealed, to express these unexpressed emotions, because emotion is energy in motion, right? Emotion is energy in motion. And energy in motion, you can hear it by the name, they are meant to move and to flow through. But in our Western societies, Many of us, we cling to our emotion. We're stuck in our emotion. We don't express our emotion. We suppress them. And then these emotions become frozen emotions. I call them frozen emotions. And with frozen emotions, you have blockages in your energetic flow. You have blockages in your life, in your health, etc. And eventually you will get symptoms and you will not be at ease, dis-ease. So this is how diseases are made here in the Western society, that like a lot of traumas, fears, programs, and unresolved emotions. So to unlock all these frozen emotions, you need to actually feel them. You can't sugarcoat them, you can't replace. So if I have a lot of fears stored in my body, if I have a lot of traumas, I can't replace it by thinking affirmations or thinking positive, right? Because many people try to do this. I call it like a spiritual bypass, because it's like, don't worry, you know, make affirmations, think positive, and it will go away. But no, it won't, because that is the same energy that keeps these emotions stuck. Not to pretend that they are there, not to address them, not to express them. So these unexpressed emotions become frozen emotions and become diseases. So for me, the journey was a lot to, you know, to look them in the eye, to feel them, to allow them to move through, to lock up the frozen emotions and to allow them to be energy again. As we know that everything is energy, right?
Right.
Everything that we are, everything that we do, everything that we say, all the actions, we are energy, we are energetic beings. And when we get sick, that's because the energy is stuck. Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, etc. So I had to defrost my emotions. And the only way you can do that is to become aware of them, because you cannot change anything that you are unaware of, right? You need to be aware. Aha, okay, so this is what's going on. So you had to be aware, and then to feel them, to embrace them, to transform and transmute, because these inner shadows, these inner wounds, your inner darkness can be transformed into more light, to more consciousness. And we know that we only have access to 5% of consciousness, right? This means that we are ruled, governed by 95% of unconscious programs, unresolved emotions, traumas, etc. So when we began to resolve and to clear out these frozen emotions, diseases, blockages, etc., we also gain access to more and higher states of consciousness, higher states of lights, right? So that was my journey back to feel it all and to move through it all, not to bypass, not to numb, not to distract, because I had tried that so many years and it didn't work. So the only way forward for me was moving inward. And as high as I want to rise, as deep I need to go, right? Exactly. It's like an arrow. For the arrow to flow forward, you need to pull, you know, the energy back so it can flow straight. So that's also what I needed to do. I needed to move inwards and to dig deep.
Yeah, Ulrika, it all makes sense. You know, like a lot of things to unpack, a lot of information, a lot of ideas there in what you said. There are many things that made me curious. Like first, you mentioned that you used to suppress your emotions or work around them. You mentioned like a couple of ways, affirmations. Did you try that affirmations? What are other ways you used to do to like work around or bypass your emotions that maybe someone else out there is doing without their knowing, for example, or even me maybe, because I can resonate with a lot of what you're saying. And yeah, I'm living an example of that right now in my life, which is another long story, but it very much like resonates with what you said. So
thank you. So there's, honestly, Albert, I think there are as many ways you can abuse and misuse as you can use, right? We can use medications, but we can also abuse. We can use alcohol, we can drink alcohol, but we can also abuse. So my strategy is I numbed myself with work. Like I did a lot of work. I went to the gym. As I said, I vacuumed my house 7 times a day, all to keep these emotions at bay. Or everything that I did was a way to distract myself from feeling, because these feelings were so dense, so intense, and they scared me. And I didn't even know that they were emotions. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought that I was, bipolar, schizophrenic. I thought that it was, I always saw myself like an alien, like I didn't belong, etc., etc. So I took all the opportunities to distract myself from these ordinary things in everyday life, like going to the gym, like cleaning at home, like always, even if I was going to go to the store, I tried to run back and forth, and to distract. You can distract yourself with your cell phones, with your computers, with work, with sex. Yeah. In our society, we think that being a workaholic, that is a good thing, right? This man or woman, she's working a lot. So she's very productive and very efficient and very successful, got her shit or his shit together. But being a workaholic is a severe imbalance from the yogic perspective, because it all comes back to, as a yogi, we talk a lot about chakras, right? Chakra is energy center. It means the center for energy. And as we are energetic beings, we have over 80,000 chakras in our bodies. Like, if you're sore here or sore there, you can feel that maybe some stuck in your energy. You can feel it if you're sore or stiff. Yeah. But the yogi perspective works with the 7 biggest chakras. And the root chakra, that is, all your basic needs when you were a baby. And your root chakra is about being connected to yourself and to this planet. But since we are imbalanced, most of us are imbalanced in our root chakra, this is also why we are polluting, our own planet. We are polluting it. We are cutting down Mother Earth's forests. We are, polluting the oceans, etc., etc., because we are not connected. We live in big skyscrapers, high skyscrapers, and we are disconnected from ourselves and disconnected from each other and from this beautiful planet, our home. And this is because a severe imbalance in the root chakra. And when we are imbalanced here, we try to compensate it by being a workaholic, for example, right? We are trying to compensate it by earning a lot of money and spend a lot of money and buying a lot of things, because we think that all these things will fill our inner emptiness, our inner holes. And this means that we are looking out here for things to fill us, right? So we can be whole and healed and happy. And this means that we are looking for the wrong things at the wrong places, because there's nothing out there. No money in the world can, fill you up if you feel that you have a hole inside. Right. So you need to fill this emptiness, this longing, this hole with yourself. So you need to heal your root chakra, and you need to align yourself in all the chakra system. And this is what we see in the world today, because if I was connected in myself, if I was balanced and aligned in my root chakra, I could never harm anybody. Yeah. I could never go at war. And you see what we do to this planet. So what's going on in the outer reality, the outer realms, is just a mirror of our own individual fucked up programs, right? And imbalances. So each person that comes into balance and alignment also contribute to the collective consciousness. So they say, happiness is an inside job, and it truly is. And it's also to take radical responsibility, because there's nobody to blame. You can't blame, your parents, your teachers, your husband, your wife. It is up to you, because nobody's going to come and save you. You have to save yourself. You have to fill your inner holes with yourself. You are the ones that you're waiting for. You are the one that fills your inner holes so that you become whole.
Yeah, these are very wise words. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Like, very important that you mentioned about these distractions. Actually, some of them are obvious, but some are not, like the gym. For example, many people think that it is actually not a distraction and it is a way for healing. But from what you said, you think that it is not the appropriate way to deal with your emotions, and it's like also falls under distractions. I can also,
For me it was, yes, because
yeah,
I also had the wrong intent, because my intent was all about looking good or, losing weight. So my intent was never, to feel good. My intent was, to become slimmer and slimmer and more fit. And, I had this distorted view upon myself that I was only worthy of love if I was this good girl, or if I was fit or whatever. So this is distortions and programs that we all have in our root chakra, whether we are conscious of it or not.
right. Yeah, I think this resonates with a lot of people, and it will help like a lot. Unfortunately, we ran out of time now for today's episode, but it's very interesting chatting with you, and I can't wait to have you for like maybe part 2, even part
I
3.
would love that.
Yeah,
Yes,
there's a lot to unpack and to talk about.
it is. It's a heavy subject, and it's still a subject that is very taboo, because here in Sweden, where I'm from, a lot of people are depressed and burned out, and it's like very shameful that you're not strong enough. But it's actually the contrary, that you have been too strong and doing the wrong things for a very long time. You just haven't paid attention to your body signals. Like I was one of them. I could have fever, and then I just took some pills and I still went to work instead of resting. And I always pushed myself, and these are very toxic patterns and behaviors that most of us have, one way or another, in one shape or form. So it always comes back to you. The change that you want to have, you have to do. The change that you want to see, you have to create. And it takes a lot of courage. I just want to say also that the word courage comes from the French word of heart, courage. So it takes a lot of courage to change that, to acknowledge your fears and to transform them, and to create the life that you want, that is more aligned and more in balance in the chakras, in body, mind, spirit, etc. So I just want to end by saying, first of all, thank you for listening. And if there's like one sentence that is resonating with you, I'm really happy, because it's like ripple effects. Because when I was depressed, I heard something on Oprah Winfrey show that hindered me that day from committing suicide. So I feel that then the circle is closed if there's something that I say that resonates with you who listens. Right. So thank you for listening. Sure. And the second thing is that if you find yourself in a dark space, if you are depressed, you can also reflect upon the word depressed, like a deep rest. Instead of being depressed, it's like a deep rest for body, mind, and soul. And you're actually a plant that might have been planted in the dark soil for you to thrive into something else that is more aligned with who you are. Right. Makes sense. Thank you so much, Ulrika. Thank you so much, Albert, for having me, and looking forward to connect again. Sure, me too.